What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Final Fantasy XVI finally comes to PC, and it's a really GPU heavy game, and it is playable on the Steam Deck, but there's certainly a lot of areas that aren't able to get to that 30 FPS or above like we were able to get in earlier parts of the game. But we're going to look at all that. We're going to start off with some settings and some comparisons to XeSS and some other things here. As far as the settings go, we have FSR 3 and we have balance, which we're going to use a lot here in the game, but you also have some other options here with the Legacy FSR 1, and we also have Intel's XeSS 1.3, which is actually a really good upscaler that sometimes does beat FSR 3 in image quality and or FPS, and we'll take a look at that here a little bit in the video. And then, of course, your typical options for your upscaling. We have frame generation here, but we'll take a look at that as well. I am having some trouble with that here on the Steam Deck. And then mostly we're going to use low settings here because, again, moving anything up or trying to get the game to look much better really just takes performance even lower than what we're already dealing with. We will have 800p here, though it doesn't support 1610, and we'll be using full screen for most everything here. Now, if we were to be at native, things wouldn't work out too well, and that's why we want to use FSR or XeSS, which you can see here side by side. Now, typically XeSS would be a bit clearer and have more FPS than FSR 3, but in this case, surprisingly, FSR 3 does remain a bit clearer, even though it is a little bit less FPS by just 1. XeSS consistently will beat FSR 3 by 1, 2, or 3 FPS, depending on where you're at in the game typically, except for performance here, with where FSR actually did a better job once we went past balanced and then into ultra performance, where FSR again actually beat it. So if you're at quality or balance, XeSS might be better, but again, surprisingly, the image quality when sitting still is better on FSR 3, and that's not always the case. Moving, however, I do think XeSS when you're moving around does tend to look better. Here's some balanced FSR 3 when we're fighting this boss right here. I'm going to switch over right here to XeSS balance. We'll gain an FPS or two right here in this, and you can just kind of check out the image quality there, and then we're going to bounce back over to FSR 3. Again, it does look clearer with the FSR 3 in this game, but you gain just a slight bit of performance with the XeSS, so it's going to be kind of depending on what you want to use here, but I think I'm mostly going to be using FSR 3 for now, and balanced for the most part in the game as well. Now, if we want to turn on something like screen space reflections, ambient occlusion, we can do that and gain a little bit here. We'll lose a little FPS, but we do lose more when we get later on and things get busy. Going to a medium does make the game look really good, but again, performance tanks as we are really GPU bound, and 21 FPS just sitting still. It'll be down to 10 later on. So back to the low settings, FSR 3 balanced 800p here. Now, we do have frame gen in the game as well, which I've switched on here, but it's not working as well as it has been in Cyberpunk, Black Myth Wukong, and others. Now, we turn the manual GPU clock on and go to 1600, and it really doesn't boost up the performance of the GPU or help out the frame gen the way it typically would when we do that. And sometimes I can find a balance between 1200 and 1600 as well, which will kind of fix that in some games, and we'll get more benefit. But this is just really not kicking in properly for me no matter what I do. I've restarted the game and the deck multiple times during testing, and just isn't really a viable option for me in a lot of areas of the game here. It's just really not acting like it does over on some other games recently like Cyberpunk or Black Myth. So I'm going to leave that one alone for now and not use frame gen on the Steam Deck here, and we'll get in and take a look at a little bit more performance. Now, obviously earlier on, like in the demo or early in the game, performance is actually pretty good and you tend to stay above 30 FPS. And I think with the demo, we had a lot of hope that performance might stay up there, and maybe we could lock 30 FPS quite often. But so far for me, once you get past the demo area and into these further in missions, a lot of them are just typically running in the 20s no matter what. So even if I were to cap 30 here, I'm still running this in the 20s a lot of the time once we get away from the beginning of the game. And so that's just kind of where we're at. I'm sure as I play deeper into the game, I'll get back to areas that do run in the 30s or 40s again, and then probably other areas that tank back down into the 20s. So really up to you if something like this is going to be playable, since it does have the good and the bad performing areas. The only good thing is, since it is more of a GPU bound thing here, we are staying pretty good with frame times, so it's not a stuttery mess, but it is low FPS. Another look at some XeSS balance here as we run around. Again, I just think it's interesting that it's not quite as clear as the FSR with this implementation in this game, because usually it is clearer. So it's kind of interesting that that's the case, but it does feel good. You do get an FPS or two more, and a lot of people do like to use the XeSS over FSR, especially the new 1.3, so that'll be up to you there. but there are plenty of areas of the game, even as I get further in, that do continue to run pretty low as we get into it here. Again, teens as we load into some different areas here, and we're fighting at night along this trail headed kind of to the next area. So other than the intro areas of the game and the demo stuff, most of my gameplay has been pretty low FPS no matter what I do with the settings. And this area that you run into as well, fairly early on after the demo, kind of a small village area and stuff, the teens most of the time, or low 20s, even with no combat or NPCs. So honestly, it's just going to depend on where you're at in the game, how it's going to perform. Again, it might perform better later on in some other areas, but it is going to be all over the place, and you'll typically be playing between 20 and 40 FPS, it looks like, depending on where you're at and what's going on. Again, it's not a CPU issue, so it's not a stuttery mess, but it is low FPS, and be aware if you're looking to buy this game and play it on something like the Steam Deck, that this may or may not be something that you want to get into. For me, I haven't died or had problems with issues with combat or anything, but it certainly is pretty low and can feel pretty rough a lot of the times. I'll also have videos coming on the Legion Go and the Ally X as well to see how we're performing over there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll leave the rest of this battle up for you to check out, because why not? I have it here and you might as well. So anyways, guys, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video as always. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.
There, boy. There, boy. Get him. You know what to do, boy.
Aye, aye. Someone's got the up. Where he stops, no one knows.
Not this time.
I doubt he'll do that again.
Not if we kill him first. Get him, boy. Sick him, Torgal. You know what to do, boy. Sick him, Torgal.